Tonight we have our Appellate Court Justice candidate, Barry Vaughan, if you would come up. We have questions for each one of the candidates. They have 90 seconds to answer it and then move on to the next one. There will be a 90-second introduction of whatever he wants to say to you about himself. And then we'll do the Attorney General candidate, the Secretary of State candidate, and then the U.S. Senate candidates. So our moderator for tonight is Joe Wojtal.
Justice Vaughan, thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So we'll start with an opportunity to give you like a 90-second opening statement. So the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you again for coming out on a Friday night. My name is Barry Vaughan. I currently sit on the Appellate Court. The Appellate Court for the 5th District is made up of 48 counties, the southern 48 counties in the state of Illinois. I now sit on the Appellate Court because Justice David Overstreet, who was elected to the Supreme Court by a wide margin of 26 points 2 years ago, assigned me to the Appellate Court. And you'd have to talk to him about why, but I think the reasons he assigned me there because 3 things. I come from a hardworking background. I grew up on a farm, used to hard work. We raised cattle and hogs and grain, 5,000 bales of hay. I've been involved in my community. I've been a Christian since July 11th, 1974. I've been a deacon in my church since August of 2004. I've been active in my community. I've served as president of the Lions Club, president of the Rotary Club. I served as a board member and president of the Hamilton County Fair Board. I served as a board of director on the Baptist Children's Home and Family Services. So I've been involved in my community. Not only that, I've been involved with youth programs. We've coached softball for years. My wife told me in 2016 the high school golf coach had quit, and I became the high school golf coach. In 2011, I saw an article that said there was a shortage of referees, so I became a basketball referee. I've been working as a USGA golf official for years. So I've been involved in my community. Also became a bus driver when I became a coach. But the most important thing is experience. As I said, I've been on the court for almost 20 years, on the appellate court for the last year and a half, and I've served as faculty for the court, served as a mentor for other new judges, and just been involved and shown experience in that aspect.
Thank you very much. Thanks for that opening statement. So we've just got a set of 4 questions, and all these questions have been sent out to the candidates, so they've been able to prepare. But Justice Vaughan, the first question we had for you is, why is the appellate court essential to our state's judicial system?
Okay, thank you. Well, unless you go to court, you probably don't know a lot about the court. People tell me they don't know the judges, but in Illinois we have 3 levels of court. There's the trial court, which is the most judges. When you have a case, whether it's a speeding case or a small claims case or a divorce, whatever, you go to the trial court. The next level is where I sit now. That's the appellate court. There are 5 districts in the state of Illinois. I'm in the 5th. You're in the 5th. There are 7 justices on that appellate court. And then the highest court in Illinois is the Illinois Supreme Court. The problem is, for most people, your only chance for justice is the trial court. If you're not happy with the results there, then you can appeal to the appellate court. That's where I come in. And so the reason it's important is most people can't go to the Supreme Court. If they don't like the trial judge's decision, we're the court of last resort. This year, we're on a trend to have 832 cases filed in the 5th District Appellate Court. Of those 832 cases, only about 5% actually get to go to the Illinois Supreme Court. You have an automatic right to appeal to the appellate court. If you don't like the decision at trial court, you can always appeal. If you're charged with a crime and you're found guilty, you get an automatic appeal if you want to the appellate court. But the Supreme Court picks and chooses their cases. They sit for the whole state. They can't take every case that comes along. It'd just be too voluminous. So they pick and choose their cases. So as I said, only about 5% get to go. So I think last year it was between 35 and 40 cases from the 5th District got to go to the Supreme Court. So we are essentially, for the people that go to trial court and don't like the result, we are the Supreme Court for them. So that's why it's important.
No, thanks for that answer. I think that helps us understand the appellate court very well. So the next question is, how do you determine the impact of both the U.S. and Illinois constitutions on a specific case?
Well, surprisingly, most of the cases that we have do not have constitutional ramifications. They're contract cases, disputes over medical malpractice or things like that. A lot of the criminal cases involve constitutional law, search and seizure law, or right to counsel, cruel and unusual punishment. There was a U.S. Supreme Court case called Miller that was decided a few years ago that said if you're a youth under 18, and you're sentenced to life imprisonment, that's probably cruel and unusual. So there have to be other factors considered. So for the most part, we don't have those things. But due process is a constitutional right that always comes into play. It comes in a lot of times with administrative hearings. If someone has a workers' comp case and they weren't treated fairly, they can go through the system and make sure due process was done. In the last year, we've seen a lot of cases with vaccines and mask mandate questions. The main issue then was, and I didn't have any of those cases on the appellate. I had one case, but most of those cases involved due process. Did the health department or the governor or did someone follow the procedure, give you due process, a right to be heard before action was taken? So I carry my Constitution with me when I'm on the court, and I've got a pocket Constitution. You get it online, but I carry one with me in case there's something I have a question about. I always have access to it. But as I said, for the most part, at the appellate court level, the Supreme Court makes constitutional decisions. The U.S. Supreme Court makes constitutional decisions. On our level, it's usually more monetary and things like that.
Okay, great. Thanks for that answer. So the third question we had for you is, who rates Illinois judges, and where can we find the final ratings? And then why are those ratings important to voters?
Well, judges go through a process called judicial performance evaluation. That's a private thing. I'm chairman of the committee that oversees that. That's for self-improvement. We all go through a process every 5 years. Other attorneys, bailiffs, court reporters, circuit clerks, deputies, they rate us and we get the results, and it's for self-improvement. But the one that would concern you more is the Illinois State Bar Association conducts a rating. And people tell me when they're talking about voting for a judge, they say, we don't know the judges. We don't know anything about the judges. And usually what happens is they will ask an attorney friend, what do you know about Barry Vaughan? Well, in this case, the Bar Association has already done that. They've already rated the judges. And so there are two ratings for the Appellate Court and the Supreme Court. There's a committee, there's a 9-person committee. I filled out about a 10-page questionnaire. I sent that in with references. They contacted my references to ask about me. They looked at cases I'd been involved in. And then the committee interviewed me for 30 minutes to make a recommendation. I was the only one who received a recommended. The other two candidates, the Democrat and my opponent, received not recommended. The most important rating that happens is probably, I think, the bar poll that goes out to the lawyers. A ballot is mailed to all the attorneys in the 5th District, and they ask, do you know these judge candidates? And if they don't, they just check no and send it back, and that's the end of it. If they do know you, then there are 8 questions they rate you on, and it deals with temperament, court management, legal ability, things like that. The 8th question is, knowing all this, should Barry Vaughan, is he qualified to be on the court, or whoever the opponent is? And I received a 90% in that. My opponent received a 44%. So I think it's a valid thing. The attorneys that I know take it seriously. When they get a ballot, they give a lot of thought to it. That's their one chance to tell the public what they think about a judge. So I think they take it seriously, and you can find it at isba.org, which is IllinoisStateBarAssociation.org.
That's great. No, thanks for sharing that information for us. So the last question we had for you is, why are you the best candidate to join the Illinois 5th District Appellate Court?
Well, I think a lot of the things I've already talked about. I'm the only one, Republican or Democrat, who has been rated recommended. The Democrat who's going to be running in the fall got a 51, but that's not recommended. You have to get a 65 to be considered recommended. He got a 51. My opponent in the primary got a 44. So if you have a choice, and you do, shouldn't you choose the one who has a 90% approval rating versus the one who has a 44% approval rating? Secondly, I've been evaluated by the Illinois Supreme Court. David Overstreet looked at other judges in the 5th District, and he nominated me to be on the appellate court, and the Supreme Court approved me unanimously. My background, when I first started in law, I was a prosecutor. I'm the only one on the appellate court right now, or the only one running, who has served as an elected prosecutor. And I think in this time of defund the police, war on the police, it's good to have somebody who has been a prosecutor and worked with the police on the appellate court to have that perspective. Now, as a judge, I try and see both sides and come with an open mind. I was a defense attorney for 6 years. I was a small town attorney, and I got appointed to people to represent people. So I've seen both sides, but I'm the only one who has experience as a prosecutor. I also come from a background of hard work. As I said before, I grew up on a farm. I paid my way through law school by working in the oil field. I was a pumper and a roustabout. I leveled tank battery locations, driving a bulldozer and a backhoe. And I worked construction through the labor union. I ran a jackhammer for 3 years to help pay my way through school. So I talked about having a bus driver's license. That wasn't easy. You had to go take a written test, take an all-day class, take a drug screen, a background check, take a bus on a driving test. I know what it's like to have to go through those kind of things to get a job and to get a license. And I bring that to the court that I'm a working man, so to speak. So I come from that background.
Well, no, that's great. Thank you so much for your time this evening. We definitely appreciate you speaking to us, and good luck in the election.
All right, thank you.
The next office we have is the Attorney General, and we have Dave Shestokas. And for everybody's information, we do have a timer up here that is color-coded so the candidates can watch their time go down. So they're keeping to their 90 seconds.
Hi, David. Hey, thanks so much for your coming tonight. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, you might have to turn the...
Hello?
There you go.
we
You got the power.
Terrific. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here down in St. Clair County. My name, again, is David Shestokas. I only have 90 seconds for the introduction, but when I was a kid, we used to have magic shows, and I'm sure children were involved in magic, and we used to open my show with Hocus Pocus, the Great Shestokas, and that allows people to remember how to say Shestokas. So, with that introduction, I'm a former assistant state's attorney. I used to be a prosecutor in Cook County back when we actually prosecuted people. It was an interesting experience that has led me to have a campaign slogan called "Make Crime Illegal Again." Okay, this is what we want to do here, and that's how we're going to do it. Just as a more recent history and background, in 2016, I was part of the Trump-Rubio team in Broward County, Florida. If you look at Shestokas in the Miami Herald, you'll find some of the backstory on how I found 150,000 illegally open ballots in a back room in Broward County, Florida. In 2020, I actually was also on the Trump Lawyers for Trump during the course of that election in Pennsylvania. During my time in Pennsylvania, I ultimately wound up in court with Mayor Giuliani, and I also wound up testifying before the Pennsylvania Senate on irregularities, shall we say, and what strange things happened then. And so there's a number of reasons I want to be Attorney General for the people, and I think we're going to follow up with some questions now.
Absolutely. Thank you for that introduction. So the first question we have for you is, what is the main purpose of the Attorney General's office in Illinois?
Yeah, the main purpose of the Attorney General's office is found in two places. It's found in the Illinois Constitution, which makes the Illinois Attorney General an independently elected executive office, and I think that's very important. He's not elected or appointed by the governor, doesn't owe a duty to the governor, to the Department of Public Health, the Board of Education, the Board of Election, but rather a duty to the people. In terms of the duty to the people, that's actually defined in what they call the Illinois Attorney General Act. And the Illinois Attorney General Act has 15 specific duties. Those duties, the first among those duties is in fact to be the representative of the people of the state of Illinois. Again, I can't emphasize enough, not the governor's lawyer, not for the alphabet soup of agencies, but rather the lawyer for people. And that is how it's defined under law. That's not how it's been conducted. It's not been conducted in that fashion. It's more recently, in recent times, the last couple of years, and I believe we're going to have a chance to talk about that soon. But the current Attorney General has actually functioned as the lawyer for the governor, not the lawyer for the people. You know, I mentioned that I was an assistant state's attorney. Assistant state's attorneys, U.S. attorneys, attorneys general, they have special duties in the law, and that is to achieve justice, not necessarily to selfishly advocate for your client, but to achieve justice.
Thank you so much for that information. That was a great explanation. So the second question we have for you, what would your priorities for the Attorney General's office be? And specifically, what would you do differently than the current Attorney General? Obviously, you kind of introduced a little bit about that right there, but could you respond to that?
I'd be happy to do so. The very first thing that we're going to do in the office is see to it that the government follows the law. It's an interesting position again. In March of 2020, Mr. Pritzker issued his first order. In April of 2020, he wanted to issue another one, but there was this pesky Illinois Emergency Management Act that stood in his way that said he could only have 30 days. The current Illinois Attorney General, Mr. Rao, rewrote the law, made it up out of whole cloth, and said he could issue things consecutively, issue these disaster orders consecutively. You can't do that. That's not the law, and that just shows you that the Attorney General has the authority to make the government follow the law, but they haven't been using it. There's a second situation in terms of where the Attorney General currently is actually litigating against the interest of the people of the state of Illinois. One case that I have, I'm the lawyer for an organization called the Illinois Conservative Union. We've sued the Board of Elections, and all we asked the Board of Elections to do was follow the law in terms of giving us the data that we're entitled to under the National Voter Registration Act. And all the Attorney General said is they don't have to follow the law. The Attorney General is literally telling the people of the state of Illinois that their government does not have to follow the law. This is so we're going to see to it that that happens. Then we're going to deal with some crime issues because we're going to have assistant attorney generals that are no longer litigating against people, and we're going to turn them loose on those prosecutors who are not prosecuting crimes.
Great, thank you for that information. So thirdly, how could the Attorney General in Illinois specifically fight election fraud?
Okay, in terms of fighting election, we'll go back to one thing. The one thing that I mentioned last is follow the law. Many of the election laws are written fairly well. The problem is that they proceed on the assumption that there will always be active adversarial monitoring of the elections. And in too many jurisdictions, the elections are controlled, the election machinery is controlled by a single party. And with the, I mentioned the Illinois Attorney General Act, there's among the top 5 duties in the Illinois Attorney General Act actually is to monitor and in fact prosecute election crimes. And we will in fact do that, and we'll do that actively because we will, and there'll be places where we see that where the election machinery is being dominated by a single party, and we will have assistant attorneys general be involved in the monitoring of those locations. I actually did such things. We called it election duty. I was involved in such a thing when I was a prosecutor myself, and we toured the places. We had a presence within the precincts, and we will have presence within the precincts from the Illinois Attorney General's office. And that's really the first place to start, but the biggest place is to prosecute the crimes that are taking place that people have been turning a blind eye to.
Great, thank you again for that answer. So lastly, how does the Attorney General protect the population from government overreach?
Yeah, that's, and we're going back to have the government follow the law. You know, certainly what the governor was doing for the last 2 years was government overreach. And the only thing that made possible, everything you did not like about what Mr. Pritzker did the last 2 years, the Attorney General, Mr. Kwame Raoul, made that possible by his approval in the first instance, and in the second instance by defending the governor in court. The governor, if he doesn't like what the Attorney General is doing, cannot go get another lawyer. The governor is stuck with the lawyer that you gave him. He's stuck with the lawyer that the people gave. He cannot get a new lawyer just because he disagrees with him about the law. And that's the biggest way you can control government overreach, is that when citizens file suits to vindicate either their constitutional or their statutory rights, and the citizens are right, you do not knee-jerk litigate on behalf of the government. You knee-jerk bring the citizens in and say, what's your issue? And how are we going to resolve this through resolution? And in our case, the case that I have pending against the Board of Elections, what the Attorney General should be doing is calling up the Board of Elections and say, give them the data. You know, and that is how you control government overreach, by in fact making sure that the government follows the law. And that's what we will do.
Great. It sounds like it's pretty straightforward, follow the law. So that's what we're really looking forward to in an Attorney General. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. And just for just as a quick, it's Shestokas. Shestokas. Can you guys say that?
Shestokas.
Excellent. Terrific. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Next up, we have our Secretary of State candidate, Dan Brady.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to be with you. Can you hear me okay? Good. Great.
So Dan, thanks for coming. Obviously, what we want to do is start with an opening statement, so 90 seconds to you.
Great. Thank you. And thank you again to our chair in St. Clair County. Very nice job. And to all those that have put this form on together. I was here a couple of weeks ago because I was, and that was for the governor's form. Quite frankly, in that particular form, it was a great crowd that was in the other room. For those offices, a lot of interest, and that's great. This is a little smaller. But it's important to know with the Secretary of State's office that this office touches more lives of Illinoisans on a daily basis than any other executive branch office. And this office is an office that is about public policy and service to the public, not about prosecuting people, not about creating that policy that I have as state representative, where I'm still presently state representative and deputy Republican leader in the House. My wife Terry, who's with me tonight, and I have 2 children, daughter Danielle and son Tom. I'm the father of Tom Brady, so it comes in handy. Once in a while we need an autograph. But I've really aspired to this office. I haven't been recruited for the office. I'm not part of a slate. I have worked with Secretary White on a number of initiatives, and I look forward to discussing my background and my unique experience for the office to serve the public in Illinois. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. So you kind of touched on this already, but our first question for you is, what is the purpose of the Secretary of State's office?
The question was, what is the purpose of the Secretary of State's office? The Secretary of State's office, by statute, is defined as a chief record keeper of the state of Illinois. Most people would tell you what they know about the Secretary of State's office is driver's services, renewals, license, stickers, the list goes on. But the office has multi-jurisdictional responsibilities. It is the office that is in charge of registration of lobbyists. It is the office as the chief librarian for the state of Illinois and the libraries across the state of Illinois. It is the office that deals with business articles of incorporations across the state of Illinois. And when that takes a long time to get those articles of incorporation finalized and done, it stymies business. It is responsible for transactions for titles of vehicles, for cars, trucks, the list goes on, to lien holders. And when we're behind on that, that stymies business in Illinois. The other area that it's responsible for has to do with the operations of a Capitol Police Force and a Secretary of State Police Division across Illinois, amongst other things. An index division, everything down to getting a notary public stamp. So that's a brief version of it.
Great, Dan. Thank you so much for that information. So the second question we had for you is, what would your priority for the Secretary of State's office be, and what would you do differently than the current Secretary of State?
The question is, what would my priority be for the Secretary of State's office, and what would I do differently? First off, the priority would have to be what touches people's lives the most. It's driver services in Illinois, motor vehicles. One of the areas that I would certainly focus on is reduction of the wait times in those facilities across the state of Illinois. How are we going to do that? We're going to do that not only by digital, we're going to do it not only by the infrastructure needs of technology, but one of the main areas we're going to do is start by cross-training employees, so the employees in those divisions know what other responsibilities go on in that office. So when you come in and you get told, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so is not here today, I don't know what they do, come back some other time when they're back here. We can cross-train and change that. We have to fully staff those areas. This office has almost 4,000 employees. We can figure out a way to get more personnel into those offices. A lot of other visions for that area, but that would be my priority. If you want to learn more, please go to votedanbrady.com or pick up one of the cards on the tables.
Great, Dan. Thanks. Great answer. So our third question for you, how can the Secretary of State help Illinois citizens save money? Specifically, can the Secretary of State lower the cost of vehicle registration fees?
The question was, how can the Secretary of State's office help citizens of Illinois save money? Reduction of cost of things. The Secretary of State's office, as I know from being in the General Assembly and serving as representative, has a responsibility and interaction of following the statutes of the state of Illinois. What is created by policy from the General Assembly? But one of the areas in particular, the most recent example of that is when the General Assembly, not with my vote, mind you, increased the trailer fees in the state of Illinois and those permit fees for that and the sticker renewals. By working together across the aisle and hearing from the public, we reduced those fees back down to where they were supposed to be at $38. I would certainly look towards reducing other fees within the office. Other fees are stickers, Other fees happen to be process fees, and also look at articles of incorporation for businesses, because the business's cost of what they have to pay up front for articles of incorporation, if it's going to cost you so much up front, who's going to want to start chartering businesses in Illinois, especially small business? We can reduce those fees by working with the General Assembly. I happen to be the only county candidate in the race that has the experience in which to do that by working with the General Assembly on both sides of the aisle.
Great. No, thanks for that information. And so our last question for you, Dan, is how can the Secretary of State fight corruption through his or her management of state lobbyists?
How can the Secretary of State's office fight corruption in the state of Illinois under the lobbyist refrain measure? As I indicated to you earlier, the office is responsible for the legislation of lobbyists in the state. One of the areas that we could do, and I've been part of in the General Assembly, is to look at the process in which individuals have to list when it comes to registration for a lobbyist. In other words, that they would be more inclined to have to fill out an individual background check, similar to what an individual applicant for the judiciary has, as the judge knows over here. It's a little more in-depth. We also need to make sure we can eliminate through the General Assembly the idea that you can register and be a lobbyist and also still either hold an office somewhere in county or state government or city government throughout the state. Those are areas where you could start. The other is having an individual who is going to be the Secretary of State, who's going to be interaction with those employees, who's going to be the individual responsible hands-on to know what's going on in those agencies of the Secretary of State's office, so we can stop a problem before it spreads to somewhere else.
So Dan, thanks so much for your time today. Great answers. We look forward to the campaign, and good luck in your election.
Thank you very much, and I ask for your vote. Go to votedanbrady.com. Thank you very much. Happy Memorial Day to everybody, too. Thank you to those who served.
We will now go to our U.S. Senate candidates. I'm going to call them up alphabetically, and if you would take the chair in order. The questions will be asked in a rotating basis so that each person will get a chance to be the first to answer. So our first candidate is Casey Chlebek. Bobby Piton. Kathy Salvi has a representative tonight. It's her husband, Andy. And then we have Jimmie Tillman. And we're missing Andy Salvi. Al.
Well, gentlemen, thanks for your time this evening. We definitely appreciate you coming down and seeing us in St. Clair County. As Cheryl said, we've got 4 questions, and what we're going to do is start with Casey, ask the first question, have all 4 of you answer. We will provide each of you with an opportunity for a 30-second follow-up if you feel the need after everyone goes through and answers the question. Then we'll ask the second question, and we'll start with Bobby and so forth so that everybody gets a chance to be the first to answer the question. So I guess we'll get kicked off. So actually, before we get to the questions, everybody gets a chance to provide us with a 90-second opening statement. So Casey, if you'd like to start there.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to this great place, the oldest. Sorry.
No problem.
Everybody hear me? Well, again, my name is Casey Chlebek, and I'm running for the United States Senator. I was born, raised, and educated in communist Poland under socialist failing government. When I completed my early education, I finished high school and moved to the United States with my family. Here, I graduated. I finally got to work in IT, spent over 30 years in IT field. After my tenure in IT field, I also was involved with many organizations, civic organizations, some Polish. I was involved with Yacht Club, Joseph Conrad Yacht Club, and also American counterpart, which was Chicago Yachting Association. I spent many years, and I actually was even Commodore of Chicago Yachting Association for some time. And I also was involved with many other ethnic organizations as well. Okay. In the meantime, we also established our business, we prospered, and now I would like to pay back to the United States and to the organization that I served for by serving as a candidate, as a senator of the United States. I am trying to do and use every angle possible to make sure that we serve the United States, that I preserve and defend the democracy that right now is under assault. And to that end, I would like to use also every venue possible to make sure that we win in this election. So to that end, I actually even right now not only establish a coalition of candidates, ethnic coalition, to make sure that we all win in the election, but also I published even a letter, campaign letter, to inform people about things
Casey,
that are going on and
over.
establish an act. Thank you.
Yeah, 90 seconds, so we're a bit over here. So thank you. So Bobby, how about your 90-second opening statement?
I'll keep it at 90. My name is Bobby. My name is Bobby Piton, and I am the last of 10 children. I was born in the United States. My family was the largest family that was released from a communist country. I'm the father of 5. I finished college in 3 years. I got my CFA when I was 22. I got my MBA from Kellogg. I built a securities firm from scratch. I read over 1 million pages in my 20s. I've managed money professionally for over 25 years. I'm an expert in the financial markets, economics, geopolitical risks, and I bring a very unique perspective to the United States Senate that does not exist at the present time. I know how to examine the fraud that's been taking place for over 50 years with the books, the government books. I am an America First candidate, God first. Actually, I would take it a step further. God first, 10 Commandments, U.S. Constitution, in that order. That's where I stand. And there's 3 main things that I want to achieve if I get in to represent the people. So the achieving is to restore state rights for the people of Illinois. 3 things: renew our faith in God and family. 2, reclaim our time and money. 3 is reignite the American dream. We've been run into a ditch off the road by corrupt political class establishment players that have done us a lot of harm.
Thank you for that opening statement. There's a button on there.
Yeah. My name is Al Salvi, and to my knowledge, I'm the only one married to Kathy Salvi right now. She's running for the United States Senate. Kathy and I have been to St. Clair County many, many times. It's good to see a lot of friends. Some of them have left already. But I want to thank St. Clair County Republicans for having this event and for giving all the candidates and the representatives an opportunity to speak. This is an honor to be here with these 3 fine candidates. If I spoke German and if I was a good singer, I would do a little karaoke for you. But I hope you could hear me. I'm looking forward to tonight's forum. I want to ask all of you to focus on uniting and making sure that we send a Republican conservative to the United States Senate in November. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so, Jimmy, can you give us your 90 seconds?
Testing.
There's a little button on this. There you got it, I think.
All right. My name is Jimmie Lee Tillman II. I am with the American First Policy Institute. I'm with the Heritage Foundation. I'm a sentinel in their organization. I'm also a fellow in their academy. I'm a Black Voices for Trump also member. So if St. Clair County is holding the line and trusting the plan, Mega will be on top of the ticket. Now, 56,000 voters came out to vote for our president last time around. So I ain't got enough money like Salvi to get all these endorsements, so I'm expecting about 15,000. That's all I need because I'm the #1 vote getter on this ticket. I come in the race with 17% of the vote already. When I ran for Congress in 2018, I had 95,000 votes. When I ran for the county, 197,000. They still ride with Tillman. I come in this race, 7-man race, 17% of the vote. I'm just adding on. I'm coming to county, city to city. All I need is 100 here in each city, in each county. It's a lot. I won it already. I just want to send a message that it's Mega on top of the tickets. JimmieLee2DC.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. So we'll get started with our 4 set of questions. So Casey, we'll start with you, and then we'll have everybody else answer. And then once again, if anybody wants to follow up for 30 seconds after everyone answers the question, we'll be able to do that. So Casey, why is it important for the Republicans to own the majority in the U.S. Senate?
Stops there. Well, first of all, the Senate controls not just the agenda, but also sets the priorities for the Congress. So this is very important. Also, Senate is in a position to control a lot of bills that are passing through Congress. And if we have the majority in the Senate, definitely Build Back Better will not be resurrected. So we have to make sure that we are, again, a majority. And this Illinois Senate seat may be the key to gaining that majority, okay? Now, there's also a question of filibuster being always under attack, and this administration is doing every angle they can. Filibuster definitely will be retained if Senate has the majority. So this is a very critical situation that we do maintain majority. Now, also what's very important is that we take control of many investigations that take place, because as you remember, we went through the Russian collusion, we went through a very difficult situation with the Hunter Biden's laptop, and it was all fake news. And we have to have a set-up agenda to make sure that we set special committees and control the investigations as well.
Thank you. That's 90 seconds. Thank you very much, Casey. So, Bobby, to you.
Same question?
Same question. I can repeat it if you like.
Yeah, I'll speak without the mic because I don't really like the way it's echoed. And so, I prefer not to have it on
It's
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, hopefully it doesn't buzz too much because it's kind of thrown.
Yeah, use.
Can I restart my clock, please? Thank you. Thank you, Casey. Okay, just to be sure, you're asking why is it so important for us to maintain control of the U.S. Senate?
Correct.
Number one reason is because the U.S. Senate controls the judges. The federal judges, the enforcement of our laws is controlled by who puts in the next crop of lifetime appointments of federal judges. If we don't control the United States Senate, we have a bunch of activist judges instead. We've all lived through that, where these judges are not following the law. They are writing new laws, and that's not their job. Their job is not to be legislators, it's to interpret the laws that we have on the books. The other important feature of the United States Senate is making sure that it stops any nonsense that comes through the House. So if there's a bunch of garbage type of laws that get passed in the House of Representatives, and we don't have control of the United States Senate, or it's a stalemate like we have now, 50-50, and the party in charge is the one that is in there, the vice president can cast a tie-breaking vote, which is extremely dangerous. And now they're talking about trying to end the filibuster, which think about how insane that is. So we have to take control of the Senate, if anything, just to help restore following the United States Constitution with judges that actually believe in the United States Constitution.
Thanks, Bobby. So, Al, to you, why is it important for the Republicans to own the majority in the U.S. Senate?
It's absolutely critical. First of all, we all probably here agree that the last year and a half have been an intergalactic disaster. And we all want to reverse course. The country wants to reverse course. We want to become energy independent. We want to get the government out of the interference with gas prices, baby formula shortage, and all the nightmares that we're all going through. Crisis after crisis after crisis. Inflation at the grocery store. High crime because they're not enforcing the law. The Secretary of State candidate was here reminded me what I tell my kids. Just follow the law. You can't even tell citizens to do that anymore because they know we're not going to follow the law. That starts at the top. Foreign policy disasters, and as the previous candidate said, it's true. Appointments by the president have to be approved. Not just judges, although that's very important, but also the leaders of the various departments under the executive power. And the Senate has to approve that. And in 2024, we better have a solid majority going into that election. So it's a very key thing to get control, get a couple extra seats to approve.
Thank you, Al. Jimmy, to you. Why is it important for Republicans to own the majority in the U.S. Senate?
Okay. I didn't get this out last time, but I'm the president and founder of the Martin Luther King Republicans, which is the largest black Republican organization in the Midwest. Again, the Senate is the key. If St. Clair County is holding the line and trusting the plan, they understand how important the Senate is. In the Senate, they are passing spiritual crime bills, which is robbing our faithful people who believe in a truly living creator of our laws. They're passing unconstitutional, abomination mandates. They're changing our children, they're changing our way of life, and the Senate holds all of that up. All three of my opponents on the stage says that the Senate is the key with all the appointments and judges. That is true. But the Senate also holds the plan to make sure that we flip it from blue to red. And we can be the first state here in Illinois to make a difference. It's 50-50. Cook County is the key. So is Jimmie Lee. JimmieLeeDC.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. So we're going to move on to our second question, and Bobby will have you, well, actually, that's correct. I forgot. Does anybody need a 30-second follow-up to that question? No. Okay. So, Bobby, let me ask you the second question that we have. What would your priorities as U.S. Senator be, and why are you the best candidate to run against Tammy Duckworth?
Number one, the top three priorities is we need to declare war on high energy prices immediately. It's costing every single American that works and every family at least $500 of additional inflation per month. Inflation's been about 10% in the past 12 months. 10% of 60,000 is 6,000. That works out to $500 per month. If we don't solve inflation, all the people in this room that are retirees across this country are going to be wiped out within 5 to 7 years. 5 to 7 years. We've had war declared on us by a corrupt administration and corrupt cartel of oil interests around the world, and we are not reacting to the shot across the bow to destroy this economy. Point number two, farming. Food prices, the shortages that are existing is because farmers do not want to produce if they're losing money because of high energy prices and high input prices from two countries that supply a lot of our materials for the production of our food. Canada, which is communist controlled by China, And then we have the situation with Russia, which also is the huge supplier to our food supply. And we have a problem there. Third, and I got 9 seconds, bring back the supply chain of the United States for national defense industries immediately. Every component needs to be produced on U.S. soil that is part of our military industrial complex to keep us safe.
Thanks, Bobby. So Al, to you, let me ask the question again. What would your priorities or your wife's priorities as U.S. Senator be, and why would she be the best candidate to run against Tammy Duckworth?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And the key thing to remember is that the Senate seat is very important. So this is a very important vote. It's very important for you as leaders of the Republican Party in St. Clair County. It's very important for you to think seriously about this race. We want to nominate the most conservative candidate who is viable, the most conservative candidate who can win. And if we succeed, we can start to turn things around. The key point I would make is to quote Ronald Reagan, government can't solve the problem, government is the problem. Government is overregulating, government is interfering with the free market, government has caused these problems and led us from crisis to crisis to crisis. There's plenty of regulation, there's plenty of government control. When they declared war on energy, for example, we all knew what was going to happen. Gas prices would be going up. We knew the effect it would have, and it immediately had that effect. And it's hurting all of us. So government can't solve the problem. Government is the problem. We need to make sure that we nominate somebody who can win this seat for the country and for the world.
Thanks, Al. So, Jimmy, let me go to you here for this question. Okay, sure. What would your priorities as U.S. Senator be, and why are you the best candidate against Tammy Duckworth?
Okay, well, my first priority as U.S. Senators will be to stop the FDA from funding Big Pharma for giving sexual puberty blockers to our children. Day one, I'll stop that automatically. Y'all can guarantee that. Jimmie Lee will be on that. Why I'm the best candidate to beat Tammy Duckworth? All roads lead to Cook County. I am the #1 vote getter in the GOP in Cook County. 17% of the votes come out of Cook County and Will County. I'm adding on. So if the 56,000 voters here that voted for my president, I'll take 10,000 now, and I'll still win because I'm the #1 vote getter. Jimmie Lee 2DC.com. You can check that out if you want to know anything about me, but you want to see how conservative this guy really is? MartinLutherKingRepublicans.com. You'll see all the conservative policies that I have and how I've been fighting for you in Illinois, and you all have no idea that the largest vote getter in Cook County, Jimmie Lee to DC, your next senator, has been fighting for you all along. So just remember that, June 28th, Jimmie Lee 2DC.com.
Thanks, Jimmy. So, Casey, let me ask you the same question. What would your priorities as U.S. Senator be, and why are you the best candidate to run against Tammy Duckworth?
I want to tell you this, that I like to accomplish actually what I promise, what I preach. And these three essentials are directly from my agenda of my first initiatives. And the most important, actually, source of calamity to the United States is that over the period of 40 years, we have exported 8 million jobs and 50,000 factories. We have to bring them all back. This is going to guarantee our success and resolve forever the supply chain issue. That's #1. With that goes also repatriating the capital, make sure that capital from foreigner countries comes back to the United States. It should be on our books. Second, as I promised also in my campaign, I would like to establish Midwest to be the Silicon Valley of our region. And to that end, I would like to establish the zone of most advanced technologies for 5G, AI, quantum computing, robotics, you name it. But this is what we need here to have the best job possible, secure the best industries that we can offer. And lastly, I am also proposing that in the first 100 days of my office, I would like to pass a bill, Chlebek bill. And Chlebek acronym stands for Congressional Historic Legislature for the Endowment of Birth Equality Knowledge. It sounds maybe, somewhat,
Okay, we've reached
difficult,
90
but
seconds.
the point is, it is about making sure that the family survives the current conditions that we are under. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Casey. So does anybody, okay,
So real quick, on the 30 seconds, with regards to making sure that we don't have, we solve this energy problem. Right now, the United States on federal land has over $200,000 in assets for each and every American. 200 grand. We have more oil on federal land than Saudi Arabia, 286 billion barrels. I would immediately drill, and we should put the money into a sovereign wealth fund for the benefit of the United States, because the oil companies did not do their job and drill to keep these prices down. We should take the money and put it in there and drive prices to where they belong. I will beat the duck because I am an expert in using data, and I will come up with a winning strategy to tear her apart.
thank you, Bobby. Anyone else with a...
I left out, I would bring Build Back Better back, because Build Back Better, excuse me, I would get rid of Bill. What I'm trying to say is, Emily, thank you. I would bring the American First policy, because Build Back Better broke blacks back in the community at that time. Now, I know you got me on that, he said Build Back Better, 30 seconds on the clock got me stuttering, everybody, so check that out. The American First policy was the best policy for black Americans in the city, in the country. And so that's why I'm going for the American First policy. I'll destroy Build Back Better on day one. That's what I meant to say. Blame it on the long ride, blow out and tired, everybody. I had a blowout. I'm pissed off.
Thanks, Jimmy. Does anybody else want any more time? No. Okay, great. So we're going to move on to our third question then. And Al, we'll start with you. How will you help families flourish economically and raise their children without government interference?
By reducing the size of government. Milton Friedman, the Nobel Prize-winning economist from the University of Chicago, was one of his most famous points that he's ever made. In fact, this is what won him the Nobel Prize. Was a book that he wrote, and the main theme of the book was, and is, that there's only one entity with the power to create inflation, and that's the government. In our case, it's the government and the Federal Reserve, which prints the money. A private company doesn't have the power. The consumers don't have the power to create inflation. Only the government can cause inflation. And in this case, we all knew when the Democrats declared war on domestic production of oil, we all knew that was going to result in increased gas prices, I don't like to call it fossil fuel, organic fuel, natural gas, which we control the vast majority of the natural gas in the world, and oil. We have massive reserves, as one candidate said earlier, of oil. But we're failing to produce that and those energy reserves, and instead we're pumping money in. The government and the Federal Reserve are pumping money in, causing inflation and making it more expensive for your family.
Thank you, Al. So Jimmy, let's ask this question of you as well. How will you help families flourish economically and raise their children without government interference?
Correct, about how you need government also to get us out the problem that government has got us into. What I would do, first of all, we're going to close the border. We're going to stop the flow of fentanyl that's from coming out in our country that's destroying our children. Second of all, we're going to open up the supply chain that's freezing up the goods that's not getting to our shelves. Those are things that we can do automatically that can bring relief back to the citizens. And again, You reinstate the American First policy because of rising tides raise all boats. 5.3% unemployment, the lowest history in the black community under the American First policy. It's 7.1 nationwide, 10.8. So when you look at a policy that benefit all Americans, then did not show no racial discrimination, you bring back the American First policy. Sometimes you need government to get us out the jam that they put us in. And that's all I gotta say, thank you. Oh, JimmieLee2DC.com. Thank you, St. Clair County, for giving to me at the last minute, because you need the #1 vote getter down here. Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy. So, Casey, let me ask you, how will you help families flourish economically and raise their children without government interference?
That's a very tough question That's a tough question because actually government in many respects controls a lot of things. But at the same token, this is probably the easiest way to resolve that problem because we have to take government out of teaching our kids. We have to make sure that our parents have the ultimate power to teach their children. And we have to provide the free choice of education, of schooling our kids. We have to remove the bad boards that we have established, which create the environment for teaching delusional technologies of CRT. So this is under our control. At the same token, we have to make sure that we remove violence from our streets, from our society. And we have to do a lot of education. And to that end, the Chlebek bill will be actually the key to make sure that not just family, but also religion controls how we raise and educate our kids to make sure that they are productive members of our society. And we warn them about all the dangers of drug violence, especially gun violence. It is totally in our control. Let's remove government from the control of our families. Let them exercise the life and liberty and religious freedom, and we'll be fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you.
Bobby, same question to you. How will you help families flourish economically and raise their children without government interference?
It's real simple. Get the government to enforce the existing antitrust laws in this nation. We have been absolutely decimated because we do not enforce the laws against monopolists that have taken over our life. Social media has been weaponized against us to allow companies to maximize profits, shrink the amount of supply, and that has been taking its toll in a lot of different ways through this surveillance capitalism that is happening in real time. If we break up the cartels, then we can turn around and have an explosion of entrepreneurship. The way I would fuel that entrepreneurship explosion is I would push for legislation, because the House would have to push it through. I would push for legislation that would cut the tax rates on all businesses that receive 90% of their revenue on U.S. soil in half. Global corporations that have been fleecing us with this woke agenda, double their tax rates. Why? Because 20 years ago, their corporate profits were $4 grand per American taxpayer. Today, they're $20,000 per American tax worker. $2.5 trillion. Our taxes have doubled. Theirs have stayed flat. Our corporations in this country are paying twice the rate of global companies. I think we should flip it. They should pay twice. America First companies cut it to in half and possibly even zero as we retool this economy.
Thanks, Bobby. So let me ask if anyone wants a follow-up to that question. Is everybody good? Okay. You sure can.
Thank you. So the other thing I would say is we have $60 trillion of assets we the people of the United States own. Anybody who has a stock account, bank account, you want to make at least 3% on your money, right? That's $1.8 trillion. That's the size of the federal government in the year 2000. I think we should demand a 3% return on our resources on federal land and take personal income tax to zero.
Thanks, Bobby. So, Jimmy, let's start the last question with you. What former or current U.S. Senator would you try to emulate?
Thank you for giving me this last question, and thank you to the citizens of St. Clair County.
I think it's on.
Okay. Again, thank you to the citizens of St. Clair County for reaching out to me 2 days ago. I know y'all happy to have me here to give y'all a little debate, a little spice, but being the historian that I am, author of Tillman's Handbook of Great Black American Patriots, I'll give you my great senator, who's gonna be in my next book, by the way, the great Ed Brooks. Now, most of y'all might not know who Ed Brooks was, the first black African-American senator since Reconstruction, who brought you the Book Amendment, the greatest Republican senator that we probably had. He could have been our first black president. Nixon wanted him to be his vice president. Now, if you look at Ed Brooks during the time he was senator, America was going through a lot of racial strife and division. So Ed Brooks went out there with his Republican policies and tried to tone the strife. You see here in America, you got the fake news saying that we're divided by race, and we're not. It's ideology. All y'all saw on TV, Black Lives Matter, white people in front of lines of Black Lives Matter. You probably saw me in Make America Great with a bunch of black people with great President Trump. So where was the racism? We was more together at any time during my presidency than any time in history. We're only divided by ideology, and that's what the great Senator Ed Brooks said, and that's why he's my great senator. I'm gonna be like Ed Brooks. Jimmie Lee, 2dc.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jimmy. So, Casey, I'll ask you the same question. What former or current U.S. Senator would you emulate?
I think this is probably the easiest to answer because we have historically probably the most revered president and former senator of Illinois. So to me, Abraham Lincoln is the model that I would like to follow. Not because he just tried so many times before he finally prevailed and became elected official, but also because he was doing all in his power to actually fight the prevailing trends, and he abolished slavery. He was the person that actually was executioner of this great battle. So I like to emulate as much as possible, and to that extent, my dedication is to make sure that we kill woke culture, culture of cultural Marxism, delusional CRT. That's what it all boils down to. And that's actually, I would like to make it put into code. And it's very easy to do that if you stop and think about it, because that ideology relies on actually a totalitarian power. And we cannot allow in our country to have a totalitarian form of single government, one-party government. So that's all we need to do, make sure that we remove permanently for our culture the totalitarian regimes and ideologies. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. Bobby, let me ask you the same question. What former or current U.S. Senator would you emulate?
No one. I will emulate who God wants me to be as a United States Senator. I bring a skill set that the United States Senate has probably never seen. I'm an expert in the financial markets and the economy. I will completely audit all the books and look under every stone. I will help to restore the voice of the people by pushing for voter integrity, not just in the state of Illinois, for the past election, for the past 20 elections. I want to see how many of these laws are actually fraudulent, because we had fraudulent elected officials that were selected and not elected. I will put together a game plan to look at our economy the way it should be, which is we are in economic war times, folks. They are not shooting us with bullets, they're shooting us economically. They're crushing our families because we have not taken it seriously to see that there's predators in the global sphere, right in Canada, that are undermining the United States. They're using our data against us. They're collecting information about us in real time. They're using AI to influence us. None of that is being addressed. I will bring my skill set in analyzing data, analyzing companies, to highlight the problems that we face if we truly want to keep this republic. These are all new problems. and we need a new senator that has the skill set to execute on a plan to make sure that we keep the United States the land of the free and the beacon of hope for this country, and not this country, but for humanity and the world. We lose hope here, it's over for the human species.
Thank you, Bobby. So Al, to you, last question here. What former or current U.S. Senator would your wife emulate?
It's a very good question because it gives the voters a chance to get a sense of the approach of a candidate. And you need to have an idea of where each of the candidates, what kind of senator they would be. And the best way to do that is to tell you the types of candidates that Kathy Salvi, my beautiful wife, what kind of candidates she admires. It's a good question. And the answer is Joni Ernst. Kathy and Joni Ernst met in Chicago about a week ago, and Kathy spent the afternoon with her and talked with her about this race. There are some other senators. Former Senator Rick Santorum is a good friend of Kathy's, and Kathy and I and Rick and his wife, we've known each other for more than 25 years. And lastly, another senator that Kathy has been talking with during this campaign is Senator John Kennedy, not John F. Kennedy, John Kennedy from Louisiana. So I would say those current and past senators, and also, obviously Josh Hawley and some of those, I'm sure Kathy would be part of the conservative group of senators that have been very effective, but they need to be in the majority.
Thanks, Al. So does anybody want 30 seconds?
Yeah, we had a blowout, and the tow truck is here. Man, okay. Coming from Joe Davis to Lee County, here's my 30 seconds. Did Ed Brooks blow your mind? Did Ed Brooks, me saying Ed Brooks, was that give you kind of feel what type of senator I might be? Yeah, because y'all went new on me. I thought we was going to be historical. I thought he was going to come funky fresh. I thought he was going to come out the box, right? Tim Scott, because Tim Scott is in the moment of Ed Brooks, because in the same time of racial strife, you have him proposing the criminal crime bill. He helped Trump out a lot doing this black agenda. So we're going to go new and old. I figured I had an old audience in here, and y'all will understand who Ed Brooks was, the great senator. It might hit your mind, though, but everybody we knew. I'll go new to Tim Scott. JimmieLeeDC.com. Oh, TillmanFamilyPress.com. You can get Tillman's handbook on great black American patriots, where you also can understand about all the black patriots that built this country together, like this great Senator Ed Brooks. Thank you very kindly. That's TillmanFamilyPress.com.
Thanks, Jimmy. Anybody else with a follow-up?
The only other thing that I would add with regards to being a unique senator that this country has never seen is that I would make sure that civics is part of who we are as a nation. I would want civics to be taught literally in first grade. And I would push for schools and communities across this country to be allowed to teach their faith in their schools by community. Take this nonsense. We need to bring God back into the classroom and our Constitution every single year of their education if we're paying for it as taxpayers.
Okay, thank you. Al, you get your 30 seconds.
I want to once again thank the St. Clair County Republican Organization for sponsoring this. And if I could, Jimmie Lee is right. And I want to add to what Jimmie Lee said. As Republicans, we could all be proud of this. Everybody always says this senator or this congressperson is the first African-American Republican since Reconstruction. They always say since Reconstruction. You know why? And Jimmie Lee knows this. It's because there were a lot of Republican African-American senators and congresspersons from the South before Reconstruction, before they finished with Reconstruction. There were black Republicans. And I tell you, I personally have never seen the Democrats so angry at us Republicans since we abolished slavery. Thank you.
Thanks, Al. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time this evening. We definitely appreciate you coming to St. Clair County and sharing your thoughts with us. Have a great holiday weekend and safe travels home.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here tonight. There's still time for you to enjoy visiting with the candidates face to face, and have a great weekend.